I also wanted then to talk about another forward because it seems like Liverpool are going to focus their attention on the striker market. And for whatever reason, the name that just won't die down is Alexander Isak of Newcastle. And after spending more than £100 million on Verts, or potentially more than £100 million on Verts, you'd think that the funds wouldn't necessarily be there for another 100, when Newcastle asking for £150 million. So surely this deal, even though it's been reported as someone that Liverpool like and admire, surely this deal isn't possible because Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League. He's under contract till 2028, I believe. And as I mentioned there, Newcastle would be demanding close to around £150 million. So is this even possible?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is a starting point on this one really is that I think I'd be a fool if I had sat here and ruled it out completely, because there are some conditions there that exist that make it possibly feasible. I mean, the first of those is that Liverpool do definitely admire the player, and if there was they sensed an opportunity to get them that fit within their parameters, then they would try and do the deal. That's absolutely the case. So that's why I think at the moment you kind of would be silly to rule it out. But the thing that's kind of worth mentioning alongside that is that so many things have got to come together for this to be a reality, really. And that's what makes me a little bit skeptical about the likelihood of it happening, really. So you can't quite rule it out. But what Liverpool needs to happen is basically they need to get big money for both Darwin Núñez and probably Luis Diaz, to put them back in the market for that kind of top end attacker. But it needs to be big money to help towards it, because they've already signed Wirtz this window. So, they need to recoup some money before they do that. Newcastle have to be willing to sell at something close to reasonable. And I think, there will be a limit on what Liverpool consider that is. As good as Isak is, if you start paying north of 150 million, which is the recent reporting from the Newcastle side, and he gets injured in his first game of the season, then that's a disaster, really. So, and he has got a patchy-ish injury record, albeit it's been relatively better in the last couple of seasons. So that's a little bit of a concern about him. So, and Newcastle, as I say, have got to be willing to do it, not just at a reasonable amount, but full stop as well, because they've got him 3 years of contract left, so not even in that kind of danger zone yet of 2 years. They've just qualified for the Champions League, so shouldn't have too many PSR concerns unless they go out and spend big ahead of that. And they've also just won a trophy, so the project's in quite a good place as well. So it's not a kind of case where the player's like, I'm absolutely desperate to get out of here. This is hellish. It's it's a decent place to be at the moment in an ambitious football club. So of course you get a further year down the line and he's 2 years left, then he's got to make a decision, and Newcastle have maybe got a decision, but we aren't in that place at the moment. So I'm just skeptical that it will happen, to be honest, because as I say, it's not that Liverpool wouldn't try if it was genuinely feasible. They do like the player, but it's just all those boxes they've got to be ticked before you get there, and we are a long way from any of those being ticked at the moment. So I struggle to see it, but like I said, things change in football all the time, and my God, I won't be putting my neck on the line in this transfer window. I know that much, because I know how risky it is, but I also, like I said, there's both those things there. If Liverpool love the player, and if they could, they would do it. But realistically, are those things going to come together? For me, hard to see.
See, my follow-up question there was about your opinion on what would happen if Liverpool did, say, wait a year, because he'll be 27 next September. And I don't know about you, but the idea of spending again north of £100 million on a then 27-year-old with those injury concerns, I'm not 100% sure whether that would be something that Liverpool would do. So in your opinion, is this kind of a now or never situation where if Liverpool don't sign him this window, it probably won't happen in the following windows?
Yeah, he kind of feels like a win now signing, doesn't he? Rather than kind of someone you wait for who's 23, 24, and you can kind of build around him. I'd agree with that, really, that it's kind of hard to see them going up to that amount. His injuries are probably likely to become more of a thing as he gets. And we're talking like he's an old man here, by the way. He's going to be 27. I mean, I wish I was 27, but it is a factor to think about when you're spending a huge amount of money on a footballer. So, and there's every opportunity every chance, that there are other, opportunities that they plump for in this window that kind of negate the need for a forward signing beyond that, So there is a like at least, and there has been contact with Ekitike's camp now. Whether that's strong enough, because there's contact with a lot of players' camps, by the way, but whether that's strong enough for them to move on. If they do that and feel that that's the right thing to do, then obviously Isak is then off the table completely, you would say. So, or not necessarily an out-and-out centre forward. Liverpool could sign a kind of versatile forward who can play that role for them well. Because we've seen Luis Diaz used there, and someone who's a little bit more comfortable in doing that could be the route that they go down. So, it feels like one of those that if he doesn't sign in this window, again, it becomes kind of less and less likely, not for other clubs because his contract goes down a year. It becomes probably a little bit cheaper. It's a bit more reasonable, particularly if Newcastle don't qualify for the Champions League. But for Liverpool, would it make sense for them a further year down the line? Maybe not.